Kolomyja, or Popular Assembly, was held in the square of St. Sophia in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. A jubilant crowd gathered around the Bogdan Khmelnytsky monument to show support for democracy and independence. The people also swore allegiance to Ukraine. "We don't want anyone above us but God," said one elderly participant. No one paid much attention to the red communist flag, which was lying on the ground. "I guess that's where it should be," an observer remarked. The speeches were decisive and patriotic. Ukraine can do without Moscow. But when a banner with the slogan "Kiev against Moscow" was raised, the crowd chanted its disapproval. "This is a KGB provocation," they shouted. "We want to live in peace and harmony with our neighbors, but as an independent nation." This view was shared by the delegates from many regions of Ukraine who had come to support the Popular Assembly in Kiev. The Forum of Intellectuals of Ukraine was held in the Kiev Filmmakers' House. It was initiated by members of the Writers' Union, the Academy of Science, the Taras Shevchenko Society, and the Ruch National Movement. Ivan Drach, chairman of Ruch, in his opening address, stressed the point that everyone had an absolute right to achieve independence and the right of all minorities to develop their ethnic culture. After all, the forum's motto was Ukraine, state independence and culture. Seeing Levko Lukyanenko, head of the Republican Party, and Leonid Kravchuk, head of the Ukrainian parliament, at the same table was a significant sign. Intellectuals under the communist regime had never been mentioned as a political force which was able to influence people's minds, and many writers were persecuted for their open-mindedness or compelled to pursue an official political course. Thus, this forum was an exceptional event. Among the many speakers, besides writers, were scholars, journalists, film critics, leading contenders in the upcoming presidential election. Present also were government leaders, ministers of defense, culture and education. Vyacheslav Chornovil, head of Lviv's Regional Council of People's Deputies, was well received. Independence has been proclaimed, so there is no need to test it, no need to conduct a referendum. Yuri Shimko, president of the World Congress of Free Ukrainians, recently visited Ukraine. Mr. Shimko and his delegation were greeted at Kiev's Boryspil airport by city councilors and representatives of Narodny Ruch. "Being here in my native land," said Yuri Shimko, "is like a dream. This is a world of many unknowns, and for me, this moment is very emotional. It is also a significant moment because with my arrival, 4 million Ukrainians from 17 countries around the world are with me." Yuri Shimko is the first president of the World Congress of Free Ukrainians to visit Ukraine. The Congress was established in 1968. Sightseeing in Kiev was a pleasant experience. The Taras Shevchenko Monument, the Kiev-Pecherska Lavra, St. Andrew's Hill, the historic cradle of Kiev, and St. Andrew's Church, constructed by Rastrelli in 1747. The Canadian delegation then headed to the Supreme Council, where they were met by Leonid Kravchuk, head of the Ukrainian Parliament. Yuri Shimko presented to the leader a blue and yellow pin to commemorate the historic event of Ukraine's proclamation of independence. Desire and hope was expressed by the host that the 4 million Ukrainians living outside their homeland would one day be able to return to Ukraine to be united once more with their fellow countrymen. Yuri Shimko then proceeded to Western Ukraine. The capital of Estonia became a busy center of business meetings.
On the outskirts of the city of Lviv, only this monument stands. What does it symbolize? No one really knows, but to many, it serves as a reminder of the arrests of Ukrainian activists, members of the clergy, and politically conscious workers, a time of food shortage, collective farming, and the KGB. Certainly, this is not a symbol of a hopeful future for the children. But we mustn't forget the past. After all, it is our history. We should meticulously analyze it and bring it out into the open so that mistakes of the past will not be repeated.